This is the Real Estate Investing 365 podcast, your go-to source for real estate investing strategies so you can start living the life you want and get where you want to go. With your host, Justin Hanna.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back. Another episode of Real Estate Investing 365. Today I get with me an awesome guest. A lot of you might have heard of him. He has a huge podcast, Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate. He's got his own book. He does seminars. He's been all over the place, tons of podcasts. So he's much better at this than I am. We got Rod Khleif here coming to us from Florida, nice sunny Florida. So Rod, thanks for being here.
Oh, let's have some fun today, buddy. I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. As listeners might know, if they do know who you are, this is kind of a selfish podcast in myself also, because I need help with what you help teach people with as well. So why don't we get started by telling people a little bit about your background, where you come from, and then we'll dive into all kinds of fun real estate and sides. Yep.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. So I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old with my brother, Albert, my mother's Vantje. I was born in the Netherlands, in Holland, wooden shoes, windmills. And we ended up in Denver, Colorado in 1966. And we didn't have much. In fact, I wore clothes from the Goodwill all the way through junior high school, Goodwill and Salvation Army, all the way through junior high school till I lied about my age when I was 14 and worked at Burger King because I was tall and they thought I was 16. And was able to buy my own clothes. I mean, we ate expired food. We drank powdered milk. Now, I know you may have listeners that have had it harder than I did, or maybe even have it harder now with all the crap going on with COVID. But back then I knew I wanted more. And luckily my mom babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat and have a decent life. And she was a bit of an entrepreneur. With her babysitting money, she invested in the stock market and made money better than me. I invested 20 grand, lost every penny of it, but she made money. And she also bought the house across the street from us when I was about 14 and for about 30 grand. And when I was 17, she told me she'd made 20 grand in her sleep. And I'm like, what? You didn't do anything and made 20 grand? Screw college, Mom. I'm not going to college. I'm getting into real estate. So I got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which back then you could do with education. I wasn't just an agent. I was a broker. They got smart. Now you need some experience, but I was a broker right when I turned 18 and I was going to be rich selling other people's houses. Anyway, so I made about 8 grand my first year, maybe 10, 12 grand my second year. But my third year, I made over $100,000. So what happened between year 2 and 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology and how truly 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical information or the vehicle, as it were. Real estate in our case, or maybe it's entrepreneurship, maybe it's investing in the stock market, whatever it is, that's the smallest piece of it. It's the mindset and the psychology that gets you to push through fear, that gets you to push through limiting beliefs, that gets you to get uncomfortable to create that life. And so, fast forward to today, I've owned thousands of houses and thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept.
Wow.
And if you want to do the math on that, it's like $8,300 an hour over a 40-hour work week. And of course I did. And I thought I was a freaking real estate god. Anybody that holds still long enough, heard that story. And when you get a big head like that, sometimes God or the universe, whatever you believe, will give you a nice little smack. Well, that was 2008. I lost that 17 million. I lost a lot more. I lost $50 million in 2008. And so one of the things I enjoy talking about, and I think one of the reasons my podcast just broke 10 million downloads and it's been such a success is talking about the mindset piece of what it is we do. And for really the mindset that I had to have 50 million to lose in the first place. And then the mindset it took to get back to the success that I'm blessed to enjoy today. So if you'd like, we can drill down on that a little bit. I think your listeners might like it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, for one thing, a lot of the listeners that listen to this show and your show, I'm sure they're into real estate. They're either in two places. Either they're just getting started, maybe they have 5, 10 rental properties, or they're really wanting to get away from their day job. And getting away from your day job and maybe going full-time in real estate, as and a lot of people know, the mental side of it is extremely hard. And that's kind of what I'm struggling with, is because I've been an employee for 15 years, and I just left my full-time job. So
You did?
I did. Yeah. So going from having a set list of tasks or things to do every day to then going out and doing your own thing, not knowing what to do, having no clue, and then having to keep the motivation up to keep striving and keep pushing forward. So yeah, let's dive into
I
first.
know. I want to circle back to something you just said, my friend, before I dive into that.
Yeah.
And that is if you are listening and you are, because I get this question all the time, should I quit my job and do it full time? And my answer is always the same: no. And here's why. Now, Justin, you probably have a little more going on than most people that would ask that question. You've been podcasting, you've been adding value, you've built relationships, so you've got a lot more happening. But the reason I say no is because if you are going to have financial fear, fear is paralyzing. So if you're worried about where that check's coming from, you're not going to take action because you're paralyzed. And that's why, I've got students that have retired from very high paying jobs. I mean, significant, higher level six decimal point jobs and with their real estate, and they did it part-time with kids, with families, on the side. So it's absolutely doable on the side. So that, anyway, I just want to hammer that home, but let's talk about mindset for a minute. So, and that totally derailed my brain. Totally derailed my brain. So, how I was able to have that have that 50 million, and then more importantly, how I was able to recover from that. Cause I thought I was set for life, man. I had 800 houses here in Florida, had multiple apartment complexes, and I thought I was set for life. But how I was able to recover was refocusing on what I wanted and why I wanted it. And so I just had a boot camp last weekend. We had 800 paid participants, and we never dropped below 500-600 for 18 freaking hours. That's why I'm a little exhausted today. I had to go get some coffee before we started recording here. And one of the first things I do at my boot camps is, we used to do them live. Obviously, I was supposed to have 800 people in Orlando in May, and we all know what happened with that. So, if you go to multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com, you'll see my happy ass in the backyard filming my video on my phone for that website. I've never changed it. I should probably change it now. We've had thousands of people attend my live stream, but one of the first things we do is goal setting, because it's so freaking important. How are you going to get anything if you don't know what the heck it is? So, that's one of the first things we do. I call it goal setting on steroids. So what I'll do is let me give you a high level overview of what's involved. Number one, Justin, and for your listeners. Now, if you want me to guide you through this, I did it on my Rod Khleif official Facebook page on January 2nd. The year before I did it on the 1st, but this year I did it on January 2nd. I think it was a Saturday. And it takes about an hour and 15 minutes. I play music. I get you juiced. I did it professionally. So if you want me to guide you through it, there's a guide that you can download, and I'll walk you through this. But let me give you a high level overview if you don't want to search through my feed to find that.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is pick an hour when you have a lot of energy, and make sure you're well hydrated, drink some water, don't do it after a meal, and sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. Start with the stuff. There's nothing wrong with stuff. The houses, cars, boats, jet skis, planes, you name it. But here's what's important. Take the lid off your brain. I mean, if you can imagine it, you write it down, because there's nothing you can't do, be, or have. So don't limit yourself. If you want a private island, a jet, a yacht, write it down. Okay. So write down all the stuff. Write down how much money you want in the bank, say in 3 years, how much money you want in the bank in, say, 10 years. Write down how much cash flow you want from your real estate in 3 years or 10 years. Write down, also write down all the things you want to do in your lifetime. Maybe you want to, the places you want to go, for example. I've got a travel vision board behind me on the floor here. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Maybe you want to climb every mountain over 15,000 feet in the world. I've got a friend doing that. Maybe you want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. I did that about a year ago, and I'll never freaking do it again. But whatever it is that you want to do, write it down. Okay. Also write down, maybe you want to write a book, whatever. Just not just the stuff, everything you want to do, be, or have, I want you to write down. So big things, little things, write down also what you want to learn. If you want to learn a skill, write that down. If you want to learn multifamily, for God's sakes, come spend a couple days with me. You just missed my last boot camp, but I'll have another one here. I think it's in April. I could be wrong on that, but it's not 3 months is typically the max. And again, that's multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com. I'll give you guys a code. So if you want to come, you can come for $100, and I don't sell anything there. So it's kind of a no brainer, but, like I said, I had hundreds of people this last weekend, but the point is, write down everything you want to do, everything you want to have, everything you want to learn. Lastly, write down who you want to help. We will do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. And so use this. This is the fuel. So, I bought my parents a house here on a canal in Florida when my dad was alive, bought him a car, took him on cruises. Who do you want to do something for? Write it down. Okay. So once you can't, and by the way, if you're analytical, don't stop and analyze this. Just keep writing. Don't let the pen leave the paper. And once you can't think of another thing, I want you to now put a time limit on each goal. How long it's going to take you to achieve it. Okay. So don't overthink this either. Just put a number, 1, 3, 5, 10, even 20, as to how many years it's going to take you to achieve that goal. Realizing that as human beings, we will massively overestimate what we can do in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, 20 years. I'll give you a great example of this. When I was 18, I lived in Denver, but I knew I wanted to live on the beach, and there's no beach in Denver, right? So I would visualize the palm trees and the surf and the sand and the blue sky and 20 years later, I built this incredible mansion here in Sarasota on the beach. I owned the beach on one side, and on the back side, I had my boats. It's called a Gulf to Bay. It was just a slice through an island, spectacular home. I mean, 10,000 square foot, $8 million home, just spectacular. But that was unthinkable when I was 18. And that's the point I want to make. As you're doing your goals, for God's sakes, don't limit yourself. Okay. So again, because just the simple act of writing down what you want triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And what that is it's the subconscious filter. It's not conscious. You're not aware of it consciously, but it points you in the direction it thinks you're interested. And so the best example is when you first buy a car. You never really notice them, and then you buy the car, you see them everywhere. Were they there before? Of course they were. And so and it's the same thing with your goals. So that if you write your goals down and you associate with them on a consistent basis, your brain is going to point you towards the things it knows you need to accomplish those goals. It's that powerful. So don't underestimate it, which is why I've got vision boards and so on and so forth. I'll share a little bit of that in a minute, but this stuff works. And I know some of you analytical ones are going, oh, for God's sakes, get on with the real estate stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you, this is more freaking important than the real estate stuff. Okay. Trust me on this. All right. So you put a time limit on each goal. Now I want you to pick your number one goal. Okay. I mean, that goal that when you get it, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. That goal. I mean, your life, you have arrived when you achieve that goal. Okay. And if you've got 2 or 3 that are equally exciting, just pick one. It won't matter for what we're going to do next. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals as well. So you've got 4 goals, and I want you to put them on a separate sheet of paper. Okay. Leave a little room in between them. And I mean, at this point, you're ahead of 99.9% of the people on the planet that do a New Year's resolution or 2 that's forgotten by February or March, right? But there's a couple more steps, and they're critical steps. All right. So you've got your 4 goals, your number 1 goal and your top 3 goals. I want you to write down why those goals are an absolute freaking must for you to achieve. Not a should. We say, oh, I should be a better parent. I should spend more time working on my side hustle. I should exercise more. We should all over ourselves, right? Okay, it's got to be a must, guys. And so write down why it has to happen. Okay, so you want to use emotionally charged words. Words are incredibly powerful when you write your description. So words like beautiful and amazing and incredible, and just use words that are powerful like that. And so you might say, I can show my kids what amazing success looks like. So I can retire my wife and we can live the unbelievable life of our dreams. So we can have the freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, bring whoever we want. So whatever is going to juice you, write it down. Okay. So write down for each one why it has to happen. Now, I'm going to have you, there's another step, and it's going to go the complete opposite direction. I also want under each goal, I want you to write down what happens if you don't achieve it. And I want you to put pain in there. I mean, I want you to make it freaking hurt if you don't achieve the goal. So I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't fail my wife or husband, so I don't live a life of regret. There was this nurse in Australia, a hospice nurse. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And she talked to patients and took care of them at the end of their lives. And she asked them a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And Justin, you know what the number one regret was? It was not living the life I could. She wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. But the number one regret was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. Guys, if you're out there and you fear failure, I'm going to tell you, fear regret a whole lot more than failure. Okay. We fail our way to success. I've built 24 businesses, and I don't call them failures. I call them seminars. Okay. But that 50 million bucks, that was a seminar. It was a freaking expensive seminar, but it was a seminar. But I built 24 businesses. Several have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Most have been spectacular, flaming seminars. Okay. And that's okay. That's how we grow. Those setbacks and those failures or seminars are feedback. We truly do fail our way to success. And so, don't fear failure. My God, the worst thing in the world, in my view, would be laying in that bed, dying, having regret. My God, that would I can't even imagine that. So remember that conversation. And I met Sarah Blakely, the billionaire owner of Spanx, the women's undergarments. They wear clothes to hold themselves in. And she had $5,000, and now she's a, gazillionaire. She got billions. She was on the cover of Forbes, I think May of last year. And I met her at a mastermind, and she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother on a weekly basis, what have you failed at today? Guys, if you have kids, that is an awesome freaking question to ask your kids, in my opinion, so they don't fear failure. So they go out there and make it happen. So anyway, so you've got your goals, you've got your reasons why. Now you got to take it one little step further. And that is, you need to put things around you to help you manifest these goals into your life. Okay. And just stay with me, you analytical ones. Trust me on this. This is more important than the freaking real estate. Okay. So get pictures, put them around you. Let me give you some public examples of this. Jim Carrey, great example. When he was flat broke, wrote himself a check for 10 million bucks. And used to sit up by the Hollywood sign, Hollywood sign in Hollywood, Florida, and visualize cashing that check. He'd look at it and cash it. He'd pull it out of his wallet and look at it. And that's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. I'll give you a more recent example. Demi Lovato, when she was a nobody, well, I shouldn't say it that way, when she was really unknown, 10 years ago, posted on social media, I'm going to sing the national anthem in the Super Bowl. She made that declaration. Well, not this last one. Go watch the one before. She sang it. I'll give you some personal examples from me. When I was 18, I figured that because I was going to sell other people houses, I had to have a 4-door car, right? So I went and bought this bone ugly Ford 4-door Granada. Okay. Just a real piece of, bench seat in the front, just real ugly car. Anyway, I worked with a guy that had a couple of Corvettes, and he let me drive one. And that's really important, guys. Once you get your goals, you want to experience them as much as possible. Go drive the car. Go to open houses of the house like you want. Go experience it as much as you can. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. Back in February of last year, I took my wife for Valentine's Day to Miami, and they were having the Miami Yacht Show. Okay, and we stayed at a nice hotel, and of course, I spent way too much money because things were great back then. This is right before COVID, right? Anyway, I bought a boat and jet skis and a freaking $50,000 watch, all kinds of stupid shit I should have never done. But the point is, I'm back there and I'm at this yacht show. Here's the point of the story. I digress. And is I BS'd my way on these 150, 200 foot yachts. Okay. Just pretending flashing the watch and walking around, pretending I was a big shot. But I went on there and I visualized owning the yacht. I sat in the captain's chair. I laid on the bed. I walked around like I owned it. Why? Because it freaking works. Okay. So trust me on this. You want to experience it. So again, my guy I was working with let me drive his Corvette. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay. So this is 1978. Okay. Before you were born.
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But the point is they didn't even have the internet back then. So what I had to do was get a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine, but I got a picture and I put it on the visor of that bone ugly Granada. So every time I sat in that Granada, that picture was right there in front of my face. Okay. And within a year or two, I had a Corvette. Now, I want to give you some more examples. Please know this house example I told you about, that $10 million house and these cars I'm going to tell you about next. It's not me bragging or the watch or any of that shit. This stuff doesn't even interest me anymore. But the point is, I'm hoping to inspire you to what's possible. Maybe, you don't want material things. You want security. You want to take care of somebody, whatever it is. But I just want to show you that this works. That's the reason I'm sharing this with you. So I had the Corvette. And this is back when there was a TV show called Magnum PI. And it was a detective story. The actor's name was Tom Selleck, and he drove this Ferrari 308. And it was the first time I'd seen an exotic car. And I'm like, holy shit, that is incredible. I got to have something like that. So I got a picture of that actual car, put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati look just like it. Last example. I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. Okay. I had the posters in my room with the Lamborghini and the girls washing it and the bikinis and all that crap growing up in high school and all that. I knew I wanted a Lamborghini. Anyway, so what's interesting is my son collected models of exotic cars. He had about 30 exotic, different exotics, different brands and makes and stuff. He had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting, which I wrecked. But anyway, so get the pictures. In fact, let me show you something. This is my plan. Do you put these on YouTube or are you just doing this on iTunes?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
You do it on YouTube. Well. Okay, so let me show this. So this is my planner. I use a paper planner. I'm a dinosaur. But anyway, in the back of this thing, I've got pictures that have been in here for 20 years. Okay. Now I've had different binders over the last 20 years, obviously, but it used to be called a Daytimer. Now it's Franklin Covey is the name. But in the back of this are pictures I've had for 20 years. These first pictures are my gratitude pictures. They're pictures of my kids when they were young. Okay. Then I've got pictures. But by the way, why do I have gratitude pictures? Because everything comes from a place of gratitude. If you want to manifest any of this stuff into your life, it starts with gratitude, okay? That's the emotion that you use to get it. And I'll explain a little more on that in just a second. But then I've got pictures of the houses that I wanted. This top picture looks just like the house I had on the beach. I had 10-foot high glass like that, butt together, travertine floors. And you want to see something crazy? Again, that was before I built it. I live in a compound. I lost that house and all the craziness, okay? The house on the beach. And that place was magnificent, but I lost it. Now I live in a compound. And I've got a giant main house. I've got a 2-bedroom guest house. I've got a media building that I just built a video studio on the top floor. It's off the hook. It's really excited about that. It's still got a little more work to do, but exercise facility. I've got a theater room, on, and 6 buildings here. And what's funny is because God's got a sense of humor. I can see my old house across the bay. It's literally right out my backyard. But I want to show you something. Justin can see this. The rest of you guys can't. See those see those 2 walls in those 2 pictures right there, the white walls? See that? Yeah. All right. So this is a picture of my backyard. Look behind me. I just noticed that. Is that freaking crazy? It's the same freaking wall that's in the pictures that I've had in my book for 20 years. Okay. And then I've got, what else I've got? I've got stupid shit like watches. I've got a few $100,000 worth of watches. The Lamborghini before I ever got it. The Rolls, the Bentley, all this stuff I got because I had pictures. So go out there, guys, get pictures. Even those of you that are like, oh, come on, get on with the real estate. Trust me, this is more important. I've got pictures of things that I want around me now on the wall. I've got vision boards. Why? Because it works. Again, not ego, but this is how I had 50 million to lose and how I've, about 2,000 doors in the last 2 years with my students. So this is what makes it happen.
Yeah, no, that's totally, I definitely totally agree. And one thing I would like you to touch on maybe is the importance of, what is this going on? I got something going. The importance of focusing on the correct things, because not only I feel maybe will you manifest and get the things you want, like the positive things, the nice cars and houses and family vacations.
But I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going with this
stuff. The stuff you don't want, that'll happen too, right? I mean,
no, whatever you focus on. Okay. So here, let me give you my little talk about focus for a second. So if you're listening to Justin, I know you're a leader. Okay. You may not believe it yet, but trust me, you are. You wouldn't be here if you're not. And right now the world needs leaders more than ever. Okay. Now, as a leader, you must manage your focus because of what he just said. Whatever you focus on is going to grow larger. If you're focused on freaking CNN or the news, they don't do the news to inform you. They do it to scare you and startle you. And it's don't get me started on fake news, but the point is it's not there to inform you. So just you need to stand guard at your mind, at the door to your mind. You want to make sure that you're bringing in the good stuff. You know, I do these clips on my podcast every week called Own Your Power. They're motivational clips, 5 minutes. Even if you don't want to do multifamily, you'll get value from those clips. But the point is, you want to bring the good stuff. You don't want to listen to me. Go on YouTube and pull up the, motivational stuff that's there. Bring in the good stuff. Don't bring in the crap, because again, whatever you focus on gets larger. I have students that'll call me, or not students, actually, people that just call me out of the blue because they want my advice on something. And very often I hear, I'm trying to get out of my student loan debt so I can go do multifamily. I'm like, listen, wrong statement. Forget the debt. Focus on making money so the debt's irrelevant, okay? Mm-hmm. Another example, they asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. It's focusing the same thing, good. Just coined differently. And so that's the point. But you've got to manage your focus right now, because there's so much crap out there. I mean, and you want to, like, even today, like my wife is kind of really very political, and we were sitting there having coffee, and she turned on the news, and I'm like, please turn it off. I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about it. I want to have, I've got interviews today, and I want to be focused on positive, and it's just so important. So guys, manage that. So anyway, long answer to your point.
Yeah, it's definitely true. And the only reason I brought it up is because I never really believed or knew about this manifesting or thinking about the positive things. But what I have seen happen in my life so far is some of the good stuff that I've always thought about has come true. I've been working on it, but I think about it daily. But also some of the things that I didn't really want, for example, like certain jobs when I was young that I thought I wanted, well, I ended up would get them, right? Or living in certain places. And really now that I'm older, I realize I didn't really want that. I just thought that's where I was supposed to be going. Mm-hmm. So I've definitely seen it work on good and bad. So now let's move over to the real estate, the physical part. Everybody needs to really focus more importantly on the mental side. Like you just talked about, get the vision board, get the goal set. Talk about, you lost that $50 million worth of stuff, and then you ended up rebounding. You're doing much better, obviously, now. So what was the process like? What was the things that you did?
Well, sure. Well, again, I mean, that's real simple. I reassociated with my goals. That's it. Yeah. It was real easy to focus on loss. I mean, I hid under a rock for a couple of months. It was friggin' ugly. I thought I was set for life. And let me tell you why it crashed and burned. That might be a question. I get that question all the time. So I had 800 houses and several apartment complexes. Now listen to this. This can blow your mind. Yeah. I was only at a 30% loan to value. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar. Okay. Wow. Okay. And I still crashed and burned. Now here's why, because it's about cash flow. So I live in Florida, and Florida has no state income tax. So the property taxes are higher, which impacts what? Cash flow. I had my houses were 2 hours north and 2 hours south and everywhere in between along the coast of Florida. I had properties in wind and flood zones, higher insurance, which impacts what? Cash flow. But here's what killed me. If I sent a maintenance guy to one of my apartment complexes, everything's the same. Same plumbing parts, same electrical, HVAC is the same, hot water heaters are the same, locks, fixtures, everything. So we could stockpile parts, and I could send them, they'd be in and out in an hour. Well, if I had to send someone to one of my houses, and let's say it's an hour or more away, so 2 hours round trip, then they got to see what's wrong. Then they've got to go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we have an account, which could be another hour round trip. And I don't know about you, Justin, but every time I try to fix something, I end up going more than once to the hardware store or whatever. Same thing with these guys. So what took an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my 800 houses. And these were C-class houses, which of course have a higher level of maintenance than you're going to get in the A and B class. So that killed me, number one. But then the final thing was, I wasn't paying attention to demographics back then. I didn't even know what the hell it was. And I have these t-shirts I sell at my boot camps that say, "Pound, ask me how I know." Because I say, I lost a lot of money to the, you don't, here's what I say, you don't ever want to do that. Ask me how I know. And then I'll go into the story of why. But here's the example there is a lot of my tenants were either in retail, number one, or they were contractors, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, which fell off a freaking cliff in 2008. So they didn't have money. They couldn't pay their rent. And then you want to hear what else is crazy. The market crashed and values plummeted. My portfolio actually went upside down. Not a lot, but it dropped more than 70%. Wow. And so, yeah. Anyway, so people ask that all the time. But so how was I able to recover? I was focusing on refocusing on what I wanted, not what I didn't want. Okay. So, that's it.
Did the houses actually go away and all the properties, like you lost them?
Everything went through foreclosure, buddy. I mean, I had hundreds of foreclosures,
Wow.
Now what I did was I built a litigation support company out of the ashes of that. And I was helping people save their homes, help thousands of families save their homes. I built this company that supported law firms in 5 states. And I will say something else. This is another lesson. It almost went bankrupt in 2010. And then what I had to do is I had to innovate or pivot. I had to rethink the business, and I almost bankrupted it, but I innovated, and it turned into a $10 million company with 60 employees that I sold last year. But right now, maybe you need to innovate or pivot. If you're listening and you're having some struggles with something, don't be afraid to redo yourself, whatever you have to do. Like I said, if you go to multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com, you'll see my happy ass recording my video for that website. We put that thing up in 2 days because we were freaking. We've got hundreds of people that paid to go live. I didn't want to have to pay all that money back. So we went live stream. Now I've had thousands of people attend my live stream events. In fact, let me mention that. If you guys are interested in my next event, text the word multifamily to 72345. But remember this code. Remember the code RODFRIEND, because then you can come for $97. It's 18 hours of training, and I don't sell anything at all. So it's kind of like a duh. Okay. I mean, it truly is a no-brainer if you want to learn the multifamily business. If not, no big deal. But if you do, crazy not to spend a couple days with me. And again, that's multifamily to 72345 and use the code RODFRIEND. But yeah, and I've never, at thousands of participants, I've never had a complaint. That's a lie, except that the breaks are too short. 15-minute breaks. Trust me, they're harder on me than you. But yeah, because I'm just trying to pack so much stuff in. But
yeah, no,
anyway.
It makes sense. So now moving into like this new era of real estate and everything. So are you more on the side of multifamily, obviously, than
I don't do any single family. No single family at all. Yeah, no. I got the memo. It took me 2,000 freaking houses to get the memo. But no, here's why. When I was losing everything, it was the houses that pulled me down. My apartment complexes did just fine. They just survived if I hadn't cross-collateralized them with packages of houses. So I got loans on a package of house plus the apartment complex because I saved a 0.5 percentage point or whatever, thinking I was brilliant. Again, another ask me how I know thing. But you want to silo that stuff as much as possible. But the point is, I would have kept those. They dropped maybe 10 to 11%, but they could have easily survived if I hadn't cross-collateralized. And I'm like, that's why I started my podcast. It was to get that message out there. If you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, don't do single family. Do at least a plex, if nothing else, if not larger, because it's much safer. You can scale faster, so on and so forth. In fact, when I started my podcast, the first episodes, I used to say, I'll never sell you anything. All I want to do is share my message and add value to you. Now I'm a liar because I sell courses and coaching and everything else, but I never intended to. It was just when I hit 1 million downloads, I'm like, okay, knucklehead, you better do something with this now,
Yeah.
And so I wrote a book. The first thing I did was write a book. I gave away 20,000 free copies of the book. And then finally my team's like, hey, knucklehead again, why don't we put this on Amazon, actually make some money with it. So it's now on Amazon, but I haven't even done the physical copy yet. Only the Kindle copy. That's the physical is probably going to go live, and I'm probably going to give it away anyway. I'll do like a free plus shipping thing. But the point is, and this is a good, let me segue into something here. If you're going to go into multifamily, you have to create reach. Okay. It's one of the things you're going to want to do. And you guys live in the greatest time on earth to do that. Because if you want to raise money to buy multifamily, you like Justin's done with his podcast, I've done with my podcast, you're going to want to create reach. And with social media right now, it's so freaking easy. But there's 2 secrets to this. And that's what I want to share. One is you have to be consistent. So whatever channel you choose, podcast, a meetup, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, now Clubhouse, whatever it is, whatever medium you use, be consistent. And number 2, add value. That's it. That's it. If you add value and you're consistent, you will build reach. And when you have something to sell, for example, if you don't start that way, don't be salesy. You're just adding value when when you do have something you want to, get people involved in. It's very, very easy if you've built that rapport and you've added value to people. And and anyway, I'll get off my soapbox again.
No, definitely. Okay. So there's tons of great information. Obviously I could go on all kinds of different tangents here. And, but one thing I think a lot of people are asking, especially newer investors or people at the lower end of the game, is now where we're at in 2021, The economy is up in the air. Is it reminiscent of 2008 for you?
That's a great question. Yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah.
it is for me. Now, I did a YouTube video called The Coming Real Estate Crash of 2021. I don't think it's going to happen this year, only because, the Biden administration is throwing trillions of dollars at it. But so I think it's going to kick the can down the curb till next year, but I do think it's coming. Now, is that something to fear? No, it's something to get ready for. Be in cash flowing assets, because there will be exponential opportunities. Now, I also get the question, should I not buy right now? We're closing on a 269 unit property here in the next few weeks. There are deals. They're harder to find, but they're out there. The beautiful thing about multifamily is it's empirical. It's primarily numbers. You get the numbers right, so you evaluate properly and you ask all the right questions. It's pretty freaking hard to make a mistake, honestly. I'll give your listeners another resource. I've got this book. It's called the Tool Book. Hang on here. I'll show it to your people on YouTube here. It's all the way at the bottom, of course. Yeah. It's called the Multifamily Property Tool Book. It's 70 pages or 80 pages. There's no sales pitch in here. It's like a due diligence checklist on steroids, really. If you text the word ROD to 72345, I'll give it to you for free. It's a really great resource. So again, if you get the numbers right and you ask all the questions like I've got in that tool book, it's pretty freaking hard to make a mistake. That's why I love this business. And that's, really the messaging I wanted to get out with my podcast. Like I said, we just broke 10 million downloads. So it's been well received. So.
Okay. Yeah. One last question about that, about getting into multifamily. Should people be concerned and look like where should they look to buy their multifamily properties? Like what area? Does it matter?
Well,
is it just?
Well, sure. No, of course it does. Of course it does. And I look for what I tell people to pick 4 areas to consider first. First being their backyard. Now, I consider the backyard a 2-hour drive in any direction. Second, being a place where they've lived or maybe grew up or went to school. They know it. Okay. For me, that'd be Denver. Third would be a place that they have boots on the ground, family, friends that know what's going on in that market. They know what businesses are going in, businesses are going out. They have the ear to the ground. They can help if needed. That would be option number 3. Option 4 would be a place they enjoy traveling or might even want to retire. Those would be the 4 options I would consider first. Now, when they're evaluating a market, there are 3 things you want to see rising: income, population, and jobs. Now, what do you think is most important? Jobs. Okay. Yeah. Jobs are the most important. So those 3 things need to be rising. There are some websites you can use to research a market. There's bestplaces.net. There's city-data.com. There's datausa.io. There's census.gov. And you want to use them all and don't be afraid of this. You just dig in there and have fun and play around with it. And you'll see there's all sorts of information there. So you can determine if a market is going up or if it's flatlined or if it's even declining. And believe it or not, there are declining markets in this country. So, you may want to stay out of the major MSAs and go to the secondary and tertiary towns where there's lower hanging fruit. That's an option. But you do want to, but here's the other thing is you don't want to be all things to all people. You want to, sorry about the analogy, but you want to shoot with a rifle instead of a shotgun. Okay. And so what that means is become an expert in a market, in a sub-market. Don't try to be an expert in 3 or 4 markets. It's a big mistake. You need to know what's happening in one market, know all the positives and all the negatives and all the businesses going in and out and so on and so forth. You know what the rents are for the different asset class types and so on and so forth, because that's how you can identify deals quicker. And again, if you try to be all things to all people, first of all, no one's going to take you seriously. You have to have focus. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Rod, this is tons of great information. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Again, we've mentioned it a few times. Reiterate where they can find you, your
the boot camp,
all that stuff.
Yeah, the boot camp is my website is Real Estate with Rod. Okay, Real Estate with Rod. That's actually there's a domain that gets you to rodkhleif.com, but nobody can spell my last name. So it's realestatewithrod.com. And I've got tons of resources there. Okay, books and articles and videos, and it's all free. Go have fun and get information there. My boot camp, like I said, it goes to $300, but if you use the code and depending on when this goes live, you can get in for $97, but I don't sell anything. It's a no brainer. Text multifamily to 72345 and we'll give you information on that. And remember the code RODFRIEND, one word, by the way, one word, RODFRIEND. And then lastly, if you want that tool book, I've got lots of free books. That tool book's actually on my website too. And you just text ROD to 72345. We'll send that to you as well. So.
Perfect. Well, Rod, thank you very much. And that's lots of good information. I am most impressed by the mental side of it and the vision board stuff. I really think that helps a lot. So again, thank you very much, and you have a great day.
Thanks, buddy. Pleasure.
Thanks. Okay, everybody, we got a little special treat for everybody on the end of the episode. Rod had a big thing to bring up and something that really helped us. So Rod, Go ahead.
Yeah, my pleasure, buddy. So at my boot camp, I teach this process. It's this planning process that helped me manage 2 large companies at the same time. And it's very often that we get overwhelmed, or it's very often that we don't know where to direct our focus. It's very often that we lose balance in one area of our life because we're focused on another area of our life. It's very often that we don't pay attention to our kids or our spouse when we're at home because we're so on this mission to create freedom. Even though it's for them, we alienate them and we're not present with them. So this is a process that will help with all of that. So if you've got a child or a spouse and you know that when you're with them, you're screwing around on your phone and you should be present with them, listen up. Okay.
This is important for me. This is good.
That's why I wanted to circle back to it, buddy.
Yeah.
So here's what you want to do. You want to pick a time of the week, a day and time that you do this, and try to do it that same day and time. Here's why. Because if you can get it into a habit and you do it for 60 to 90 days, you'll do it the rest of your life. I've done it for 20 years. So let me tell you what's involved. So the first thing is happiness does not come from the goals. In fact, let me share a quick story on goals real quick. So I had that big house on the beach, and I worked for it for 20 years. And 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego. It's the truth of it. I built it to prove the world I was good enough. That's it. I got picked on in school when I was young, all the stupid shit everybody has happened to them. But I built this thing to prove the world I was good enough. And it's 2 months after I moved in and I'm floating in this pool. It's changing colors at night. To give you an idea of this house, okay, giant spiral staircase up to the middle of the house, giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get to the pool. Pool was in magazines. I mean, on the second floor, I had an aquarium that went around the staircase. It cost me almost $200,000. So it gives you an idea of the house. All right. So I'm in the pool 2 months after I built it and I got depressed. And I'm like, what the hell? I've just achieved success like times 1,000. Why am I? And I was really bummed. And so there were several things going on. One of them was it's never about the goal. You need the goal to juice you and push you and pull you. It's about who you become on the path to your goal. Happiness comes from progress and growth. Okay. So that's number one. Number two was I'd been totally focused on Rod, me. And so I went and saw Tony Robbins that year. I found out he fed families for the holidays. I'm like, wow, that's cool. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. And so I decided to feed some families that year. It was life-changing for me. And now I've fed over 100,000 children for the holidays over the last 20 years. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies, tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for their officers to put in cars. And so, when they encounter a child that needs to be comforted, and that's been my greatest gift. And I know if you're listening to Justin, you're hungry. You want more. You really want this. You got blood dripping from your teeth. You want it so bad. And I'm here to tell you, we've been taught to achieve to be happy, but I'm going to tell you that if you're giving back, you're happily achieving. Okay. And that's a key distinction. It's a play on words, but it's a very key play on words, because I'm going to tell you that and you may be thinking, yeah, I'll give back when I have the money like you do. No, give back right now. Pick a family, pick an animal, whatever your juices you, if it's children, if it's elderly, if it's, the poor, if it's animals, the environment, whatever it is, pick something and do something now, because then you'll be happily achieving. And frankly, you're going to get the success faster. It's just the way the universe, God, whatever you believe works. So trust me, you want to give back now. But I needed to say that to pre-frame what I'm going to say next. So we're in our weekly planning process. And the first thing you do is you look back on the previous week and you celebrate what you did. Because again, it's not about the goals, it's about progress, but you've got to consciously acknowledge that progress. Now you're thinking, okay, get on with the good stuff. This is the good stuff. If you're consciously acknowledging your progress, you will be happy. Even if you have those inevitable setbacks and delays, things never happen as fast as we like. If you're progressing and growing, you're happy. So that's number one. Celebrate what you got done. Takes a split second. Good job, Justin. You got that done. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, journal. Okay, just for 5 minutes, journal magic moments, especially if you have kids. Okay, because you forget so much. Now, I'd encourage you to do it every day, but if you can't, at least once a week, journal for 5 minutes, anything amazing that happened that week. Okay, give yourself that gift. Trust me on this. You will thank me. I did this with my kids. My daughter's now 31, my son's 26, and I have these journals, and we'd go and we'd read, and she'd cry, we'd laugh. I mean, it's just, give yourself that gift. All right.
Makes me want to cry too. Jeez.
Right. You're right. Now,
My
number
little kids are
three.
growing, yeah.
Right. Of course. You see so many things that are magical that just amazing. Anyway, number three, you need to make a list of everything that's most important in your life. Okay. Start with the people. List all the important people in your life. It shouldn't be more than about 20 or 30 people max. Okay. So start there. Then you need to list all the important pieces of your core job, W-2 or business if you own a business. But these are high level pieces, like maybe 8 things that you're responsible for. In a big company, for me, it was never more than about 12 things. Okay. So these are high level impact areas, sales, marketing, IT, whatever it is. List those things that you have to think about once a week so nothing gets dropped. Okay. In your core job. All right. So you got the people, you got the pieces of your core job. Now you need to list 8 to 10 things in this multifamily side hustle that you're going to do to stay focused. Pick an area, broker relationships, property manager relationships, build a team, evaluate deals, so on and so forth. 8 to 10 things in the multifamily business. So you got the people, you got 8 to 10, I call them impact areas or thinking areas of the core business, and 8 to 10 things in this multifamily side hustle you're going to do. Now, if you're a typist, one more thing, put some declarations down as well, not goals, declarations. Like on mine, I've got, what can I do to rock Tiffy's world? That's my wife. What can I do to rock her world this week? I've got lift one body part every day. I've got read a good book for 30 minutes a day. These are declarations. Okay. So put those down. Now, if you're a typist, put it on Word. That's how I do it. It's a Word document. I change it I just change the date. It's called my weekly must list. And at the top is my to-do list. At the bottom is this thinking list. But, and I've got them to go back 20 years, literally. If you're a handwriter, handwrite it on one sheet of paper. You want this on one sheet of paper. If you put it on Word, print it on one sheet of paper. Here's why. That becomes a very powerful document. Why? It's your whole freaking life, that everything that matters on one sheet of paper. Okay. So what does that do? It gives you clarity. And what is clarity? Power. Okay. Clarity is power. That's number one. Number two, believe it or not, if you've got a lot going on, it's going to minimize or even eliminate overwhelm. Okay. Because your whole life's on one little sheet of paper. It's not overwhelming. So that's number two. Number three, you maintain balance. Okay. If there's people you need to be touching and reaching out to, you won't forget to do that. You'll look at every area of your life that's important and nothing gets dropped. Okay. So the next step is you create your to-do list. You look at that thinking list and you create your to-do list for the week. Okay. That's the next step. Now, on every list, there are some things that will get you further faster. It's called the Pareto principle. A guy named Pareto came up with it hundreds of years ago. It's the 80-20 rule. It's that 20% that'll get you 80% further. You need to identify the things on that list that will get you further faster. Okay. And then the last step is you block time for them. So you'd say from 8 to 10, I'm doing X. I'm going to call brokers. 10 to 12, I'm evaluating deals, whatever it is. So not only are you celebrating your progress, you're making sure nothing gets dropped. You're focused on what's most important and blocking time for that. You are like a freaking machine. Okay. Now, if you're one of those people that I was just talking about that doesn't spend focused time with the people that really matter. By the way, that's my greatest regret in life. I'd come home to that mansion on the beach and I'd play with my kids, but I was freaking distracted. To this day, it's my greatest regret in life. Again, my kids are 30 and 26. They'll tell you I was a great dad, but I didn't live up to my own expectations. So if that is you, block time for them. I know it sounds crazy or like overkill, but it's so freaking important. You do it. You throw that damn phone in the drawer and you just tell them, baby, from 6 to 8, I'm yours. After 8, I got to go bring home the bacon, but they will appreciate that. They would rather have 15 minutes of your presence than an hour of distraction. So I hope that helped, brother. I just wanted to share that with you based on what you told me, and hopefully it helped your audience as well.
That's totally awesome. Yeah, I definitely relate, especially to the kid parks. I have 4 kids and a brand new baby.
Wow, congratulations.
But I'm always now thinking ahead, like trying to think about what I'm going to do, like how I'm going to get there. And
well, you're doing it for them. But if they don't have you,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, because you're going to miss the best years of their life. Ask me how I know, dude. This is an ask me how I know. Okay.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Well, I appreciate it. Do you have
my pleasure, brother.
Do you have your own journal that you?
I have multiple journals.
One that you recommend?
I did a gratitude journal, for my wife. I wrote every day for 100 days, 100 pages in it, every day, what I loved about her, what I liked about her. There were days I didn't freaking feel like filling it out, but I did. And of course, I showed up differently in the relationship as well. I was, because I was focused on what I loved about her, and then I gave it to her for her birthday. So yes, I have lots of journals, and you should as well.
Do you have one that you recommend that people get?
Oh, no, I don't. Just a blank paper and a nice leather bound or cardboard journal. The book cover journals is what I have. Yeah, no.
Okay. Perfect.
I should do one actually. I mean, I've got competitors that have done them. I should probably do.
That was my my goal there. It was like, hey, well, if you have one, let's make one.
Oh yeah, no, I'd totally share it with you if I did, brother. No, it's just blank paper, but magic moments, things you're grateful for. Life's about gratitude. Anyway, I gotta blow. It was a pleasure, my friend, and hopefully we added some value. And
yes, sir.
And let's stay in touch, brother.
Thanks, Rod. Appreciate it.
All right, take care. See you.